Okay, so I've had a few days to think about it. I even recorded and then decided to delete it because I still wanted to think about it, add more thoughts to it, maybe fill it out a little bit. And man, with the NBA Finals ending, we're headed right into free agency, draft, and all that stuff, especially with that new deadline where teams can immediately talk to their own free agents as soon as the finals conclude. Now we're kind of just back in the 24-hour NBA news cycle. Can't even let the championship breathe, but here we are. I will do a video on the Celtics and their team building and all that stuff like I mentioned before, but I wanted to talk about a trade that happened on Thursday, I believe. And like I said, I wanted a few days to think about it before I talked about it because the trade was so shocking to me and I hated it immediately when it happened. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't tripping, but the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade is just fucking deplorable, man. It really is. Great for the Thunder, obviously. I mean, a young, athletic, rangy team that forces a lot of turnovers, gets in transition a lot, drive and kick, shoot threes. Alex Caruso fits that perfectly. Shot 41% from three, can be a nice secondary playmaker, is a secondary ball handler, a good rebounder, and is a perennial first-team All-NBA defensive candidate every single year. So the Thunder now can just put lineups out there where everybody could shoot at all times. And quite frankly, the Thunder are like one or two specific player skill sets away from really just being a massive stone cold contender. But on the Bulls side, that's what I want to get to. Because we know the trade is good for the Thunder. They gave up no picks. And Josh Giddey, a guy that they left out of the rotation in the playoffs, a guy that they took out of the starting lineups whenever it was clear lineups with him on the floor were not working. And Sam Presti pretty much said as much in his statement and how they approached Josh Giddey about coming off the bench and he wasn't too keen on that and basically requested a trade without requesting a trade. But for the Bulls, what the fuck are you guys doing, man? And I wanted to make sure to give myself a few days because I have been piling on the Bulls quite a bit this season in some of my videos because I just think their mandate to perennially contend for the play-in, make bad contract decisions, make bad trades, all this stuff. Now, I do want to give some credit for the Kobe White, contract. That's one of the best value steals in the NBA. But, okay, fine. Broken clock, that type of saying. What the fuck are they doing here? I can't think of any reason why this trade is good for the Bulls. One, not getting any draft capital back for Alex Caruso, who is one of the coveted role players in the NBA. Multiple contending teams wanted him this past season, tried to trade for him leading up to the trade deadline, and the Bulls rebuffed those offers, could have had multiple high-value picks. At that point, there was a year and a half left on his deal because now there's only 1 year left. He was eligible for a big extension, but they traded him, obviously. But they denied multiple deals at the deadline, one of which, according to CHGO, which is, a Chicago version of DNVR Sports, PHLY, PHNX, I think, the one in Phoenix, Arizona. They reported that the Bulls turned down multiple high-value offers for Alex Caruso at the trade deadline. And one of those picks that was offered to the Bulls is a top 10 pick. Even teams like the Warriors and stuff tried to get Alex Caruso, and the Bulls rebuffed that because they had this delusion that they could make the playoffs. They're a play-in team, sure, but they're going to get eliminated every year in the 9-10 seed game. And instead of, building around your young talent like Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Patrick Williams, even though he started off slow and was injured again, he was playing better before he got injured and was taken out for the season. You instead add someone like Josh Giddey, who, let's be honest about Josh Giddey, and I'm going to talk about Josh Giddey for a bit because last time I did a Thunder, Lowry Markkanen hypothetical trade video, and I talked about Josh Giddey And around that time, that's when the allegations popped up, and some Josh Giddey stands, I didn't even know there were Josh Giddey stands, got mad in my comments because I brought up the allegations and I let it be known how I felt about them, and they got a little angry, which, you know, whatever. But you can get angry again as I talk about why, basketball-wise, we'll even put the allegations aside for a second, which, you know, the investigation was completed, nothing was found, etc. The basketball side of it just makes no fucking sense to me. In the team building sense, in the on-court sense, like if you want to bring back DeMar DeRozan, I'm not so sure how him and Josh Giddey will fit on the court. Josh Giddey is the type of player that needs the ball in his hands to be effective. Last season, when the Thunder were around 500 and Josh Giddey had the ball in his hands, he was putting up 16, 6, and 5. But the guy can't score. The guy can't shoot. He's a poor defender. He's a poor finisher around the rim. And even if you want to say, oh, well, Sly Hooper, he shot 34% from 3 this year. Yeah, I really don't care about that number because that's just looking at the numbers at the surface. If you want to dig deeper, Josh Giddey, and I saw this the other day, Josh Giddey has made 214 threes in his career, and 82% of those three-point attempts came when there was not a defender within 6 feet of Josh Giddey. So he was wide, butt-ass naked open, taking those threes. And sure, he could shoot a good percentage from those. Teams do not give a fuck if Josh Giddey shoots. By the way, Josh Giddey shot 19% from 3 when there was a defender within 6 feet of Josh Giddey. So already he is a fatally bad shooter that cripples your team. And we saw that in the playoffs this past year. The Thunder would opt to take him out of the lineups to start second halves and put in Isaiah Joe or Cason Wallace. And then finally, towards the end of that Mavs series, the Thunder pulled the fucking Band-Aid off. They're like, you know what? We need more shooting. We need shooting where people can attack a closeout so we can get our drive and kick game going. We'll sacrifice the rebounding and, you know, the good playmaking. I'd classify Josh Giddey as a good playmaker. He's an intuitive passer. I wouldn't call him an elite passer. And, you know, I have personally seen a big 6'8", 6'10" forward from Australia who can shoot and score play this out in Philadelphia. But even then, Ben Simmons was more athletic than Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey is not a good athlete, doesn't have a good first step, and really just has a average to below average handle at best. At least Simmons had elite traits like athleticism, handle, and he was also clearly a better passer than Josh Giddey. But the problem with Ben Simmons, like it is with Josh Giddey, if you are not a threat to shoot, and Josh Giddey is clearly a better shooter than Ben Simmons to be clear, but if the team does not give a fuck about you scoring-wise or shooting-wise, your passing windows are instantly cut in half. Your potential passing windows are cut in half because you're not a threat to score, so you can't use your scoring ability to leverage or force open passing windows to make passes that the defense can't see. It doesn't matter how good of a playmaker you are if you're not a threat to actually put the ball in the basket, because teams will always just play the pass. And look, I've talked positively about Josh Giddey before. I actually kind of liked him last year when, you know, he was putting up numbers, but it was very clear as the Thunder kept evolving and their young talent, it was clear they were going to flourish. The skill set of Josh Giddey was just going to be eventually phased out. There's just a ceiling on that, especially if you're not a threat to score, no athleticism, all that stuff that I mentioned earlier. And especially after we keep watching the playoffs and realizing that guys who are just complete non-factors, scoring, shooting, spacing, whatever, they get played off the floor easily. And teams just progressively throughout the year did not give a fuck if Josh Giddey shot the ball. Also, the Thunder got more talented. Shea leveled up. Jalen Williams leveled up. Chet Holmgren obviously is a key piece to what the Thunder do. And you would rather just surround them with shooting and guys who can attack a closeout, can defend, etc. And Josh Giddey does none of those things well. So from the Bulls' perspective, I don't know what type of high upside swing they think they are taking. But if you think Josh Giddey is going to be the all-star that pulls you out of this rebuild, well, if you're just talking about this season, maybe it is a good thing that the Bulls are trying to make Josh Giddey their lead guy, because that's just going to lead to a bad record, and then you'll be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. But regardless, rebuilding-wise, Josh Giddey isn't someone you want to build around. That limits the ceiling on your team when you have other good players that deserve the ball in their hands more. And he's not a good enough off-ball player to justify having him on the court without the ball in his hands. Or, and I'd more so put this on Bulls ownership over the last few years for their stupid mandate to quote-unquote compete and try to make the play-in in the playoffs. If you're trying to bring DeRozan back and a few other pieces back to try and compete for a play-in spot, I don't know how Josh Giddey helps you there. Because like I said, the fit on the court is just going to cripple the spacing for Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, DeMar DeRozan, even Nick Vucevic, even though that contract's terrible and he did not have a good year last year. What happens if Lonzo Ball comes back? And I know he's been injured, but I like his skill set more than Josh Giddey, even if you want to make the argument that Josh Giddey has more theoretical upside. I just don't know how this makes any sense for the Bulls. And the fact that the Thunder have 45,000 first-round picks and the Bulls weren't able to get one of those, that's just fucking malpractice. It's malpractice that they didn't offload all of their guys that they've been trying to compete with in the first place, but this is the path that they're on, and we kind of have to accept it. And for them not to get any first-round picks out of Alex Caruso, that's just fucking ridiculous. Bulls fans should be furious at how this is going. And look, they've already been furious with this front office. It turns out moving on from Garpax didn't exactly solve things. And I do think a lot of it is the front office, obviously, but I more so point to ownership because they have this stupid mandate going for them. Also, as a Sixer fan, I'm very familiar with Mark Eversley and his quote-unquote work in the front office, even though him and the Colangelo cronies fucking ruined and derailed the process. But I really don't get this Josh Giddey trade. I don't. I tried to think about it for a few days, tried to come up with a silver lining for the Bulls, but quite frankly, this is just fucking awful. A one-for-one trade, trading away one of the most impactful players in the NBA for a guy who needs the ball in his hands to unlock the best out of him. And if you do unlock the best out of him, how good does that make your team actually? It doesn't. This guy doesn't finish well around the rim. His only effective trait is that he is big and that he can pass a little bit, but you can just play the pass because you know that guy ain't gonna shoot. And if he does take 5 threes a game, whoop-de-fucking-do. He's gonna have to prove a lot to make defenses respect his shot. Not only that, you're gonna have to make a decision on him soon within the next year. Do you give him a restricted free agency offer sheet? Are you really just going to trade for 1 year of Josh Giddey when you could have had multiple first-round picks for Alex Caruso? The choice just seemed clear to me, but for whatever reason, the Bulls, like they always do, they just fuck it up. If I have any subscribers that are Bulls fans, just know that I feel for you. But this is a bad trade. Just straight up. And Josh Giddey would have to be an all-star caliber type of player for me to eat my crow on this. But I doubt it.